Welcome to Mega Talk. We're still the talk show in boxing. Thank you for joining the show. I listened to the interview with Joyce on IFL today. Interesting interview. The first public one that he's sat down with somebody and talked about his loss against Zhelei Zhang. They talked about various different things there. They talked about where the rematch was going to be, whether it's going to be in England, a possibility of it being in China. They talked about how big the fight could get, bigger than before. And they talked about what went wrong. The thing what I like with Joyce is he's very honest. Very, very honest. I think sometimes he might be honest to the point that he shows his vulnerability, whereas other people would cover that vulnerability up. How much it helps him, I don't know, but he did speak a lot about his vulnerability. In particular, he spoke about getting caught constantly with the left hook. He went to say it was hard to get away from. Now, it's nice being honest, but other fighters, when they listen to stuff like that, knowing his age, are they going to be saying, okay, he can improve on it? But if I keep on throwing that, he's not going to be able to do the kind of thing what he could do as a young man in his 20s. So he's still going to be vulnerable even though he improves on it. I don't know. But he goes on to explain that that left hook was a real problem. In other words, he's getting caught with it quite often enough to cause the damage of which we saw was inflicted on Joyce. He spoke about how fast Zhang's hands were. He was getting caught with the same thing. What we got to remember in things like this here, if he's getting caught by Zhang and he says that Zhang's hands were very fast and he's getting caught with a left hook and he was as light as what he was in that fight, the next fight he'll be a bit heavier, because he felt a bit weak in this fight. He didn't feel as strong as he could. He's going to put weight on. If that's what he does, will he be able to move as fast? If he's getting caught with the left hook, how is he going to get away from that punch? If that be the case, I think he needs to rethink that. He certainly needs head movement. I says this after the fight, and when I says it after the fight, some people laughed. Well, it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's really serious at the same time. His face, or anybody else's face, is not a form of defense. Or, shall I rephrase it, his head or his face is not the best form of defense. He might have a granite chin, and we've seen that, yes, he has got a granite chin, but his face will still scar, his face will still mark up, and the damage which was inflicted could be done again. So I really, really would like seeing his defence improved and his movement rectified. Now I know at his age he might not be able to move the world and he might not be able to change too much, but surely he can get a defence. Joyce explained that in this fight there's things that he's now noticed that he should improve on. Well, shouldn't he have improved on this many years ago? Look at his age, he's what, 39? That's alarming. But still, he's come to the conclusion that there's areas that he needs to be improved on. And I'm glad that he's come to that conclusion. One of the areas that I was concerned of in this interview, and at first when I heard it, I thought, well, maybe he didn't want to say anything. But the longer I listened to it, the more I got concerned. The question was, what was your game plan? And Joe couldn't answer what his game plan was. He thought about it, and then he thought about it again, and then thought about it again. And then Joe says, well, I've not thought about it for a long time, or something very close to that. You don't know what the game plan was, and you haven't thought about it. Boxing is not rocket science. I'm sure that there'd only be a few things at most, plan A or plan B, and he couldn't remember what the game plan was. And then he did answer to say it was a complicated game plan. Now, if it was a complicated game plan, was that part of the problem? Was the game plan, if you can remember it, overly complicated so that Joe just couldn't put it into place? There's some boxers who does things very simply but very effectively. I think the game plan, if it is going to be different the next time, needs to be less complicated and something what Joe can perfect to be able to put it into action and be successful. He did give Zhang a lot of credit, and as I says, that's what I like about Joe Joyce. There's so many boxers out there who don't want to give a true account of the other fighter. But he did say that Zhang is a proper heavyweight. He says that Zhang is strong, he's powerful, and he also said that he was quite fast as well. Even without Joe saying this, it was evident in that fight that Zhang was tiring. But even though Zhang was tiring, Joe's face was getting busted up and the damage was getting worse, and it was definitely got to the point where something needed to be done about it. And I'm glad that the referee did do something about it. Asked the doctor, and the doctor stopped the fight. I think it was the best decision. For all we know, it could have been a cracked orbital bone or even a broken one. A broken one, you tend to see it more sink than to swell, but it still could have had the kind of damage which could cause a lot of problems in the future. I do think that Joe Joyce can beat Zhang, but he's got to go in there with a totally different approach, a totally different mindset. Zhang is a big fighter. He's strong, he's powerful. Okay, don't be going in there up close saying that, okay, then I can take anything what you can give. You might need to move more around the ring. He might have to go back down to that weight, but give it more time to get used to that weight than try and get around the ring more. He probably needs to watch fighters who have beaten southpaws and see how they've done it. It doesn't matter if it's a lighter weight, just look on the principle of how they did it. He was saying that he was struggling with it being a southpaw. Watch as many southpaws as you can. Watch your fight back and compare it with the fights of other people. If I can see that, surely Joe and his trainers can see that also. I'm just glad that those punches wasn't raining in from Wilder. Okay, Wilder's got one punch, but you know what I mean. I'm glad that he wasn't getting caught by the power of Wilder. Lastly, but not leastly, the other thing what I was really concerned about, IFL asked, what did Ismail Salas say about the fight? And Joe says that he tried to phone Ismail Salas once, but it was late. There's a time difference. Well, come on. The fight was a long time ago, a few weeks ago now. He's supposed to have sat down and doing post-analysis and start to come up with game plans and start to think about what needs to be done for the future. Yes, he needs time out. Yes, he needs a rest. But surely you would have at least spoken to each other and says, well, this, that and the other. Do you think it's going to be a good time for me to rematch him? Do you think I'm going to have enough time to make any changes? Can we rectify the things which went wrong? If I was Joe, I'd be on the phone or set up a meeting or even fly over to speak to Ismail Salas. They need to be sitting down talking about what went wrong. They need to be sitting down and talking about, is there enough time? And they need to be sitting down and talking about what needs to be put in place if they're going to beat Zhang. So yes, I really enjoyed the interview. It gave me a lot of food for thought, and I just hope that Joe can now set himself in place to get this rematch, but more so to get this win. We can't deny Zhang was good on the day. Zhang has been under the radar, and after this fight now is above the radar. And now that he's above the radar, he needs to be taken seriously. Thank you very much for listening to Mega Talk. Please remember to subscribe. Please remember to leave your comments. And please remember to continue listening to this channel as it grows. Thank you.